Everybody welcome. Special edition of Noles247, Nolecast, Warchant. It's kind of like the Super Friends getting together before the season because this is a very special panel. I've got, obviously, Brendan Sonnone put this thing together. Brendan, wonderful job of coordination, administration, all that stuff behind the scenes.
I texted people. Thank you.
Well, dude, I don't know. You're a good texter, dude. You wrote it nicely. Yeah, you got the engagement. Got the Nolecast own Bud Elliott. Bud, this is the first time I ever talked to you in a recorded medium, dude. This is serious business.
Like I feel like we can just keep chopping it up, like we normally do. This would be great.
This is wonderful. And then Jeff Cameron, a Rolecast alumni. My wife still talks about your appearance. You really dazzled her with that one. No bullshit. I'm actually not messing around.
What did I do that was so impressive? I'm going to have to recreate whatever that was.
You're very engaging. I just think she could feel your aura, as the children say, emanating.
I was wondering if I was sure.
Jeff, you have aura?
Well, it's waning. But it still exists. There's a little bit left.
Too humble. She could feel it. The people could feel it. I feel that people can feel it now, just emanating from whatever device they're watching from. So once again, Noles247, everybody getting together. Going to kind of do like a little roundtable concept. A lot of stuff has happened. A very interesting camp for Florida State. Very interesting offseason. So I want all of these people who are smarter than me, want all their opinions, going to kick some topics around, crosstalk, all the fun for you, the listener, subscriber of whatever platform that you're on. Once again, it's the predator handshake here. Everybody's together. It's very nice. So I guess the first one, Bud, I kind of want to take it to you. What have your thoughts been generally about this offseason in general, the most pivotal one in Mike Norvell's career? And that's just any part of it that has really stuck out to you, whether it's camp, the new coaching hires, maybe some of the player additions of the portal. How would you rate this offseason?
I think they had a fairly cohesive plan. I mean, to execute like whatever you think the goal was, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the goal is don't get fired, right? Like to be frank here. And right. I mean, like I think that's kind of all one of our base goals at any level in our job, right? Don't get fired. But I think they probably sat around and said, okay, what can we really fix? Can we get a good passing game together via the portal? Because it was almost entirely a rebuild on the passing game side. Is that feasible? And they probably looked around and were like, not with this quarterback portal crop, right? Like you're going to need multiple receivers. You're going to need like multiple tackles who can pass block. Or can we moneyball this thing a little bit? Can we go and, like Mike, new Malzahn, can we come run a spread option? You can find a runner for a lot cheaper in the portal. And I think they got pretty lucky with the Deuce edition, obviously. Like, that guy might be a real stud. And like to have him come into an offense like this, and you get a couple other pieces there. It's easier to find offensive tackles who don't have a history of pass blocking well. Right? Because it's just different things you're asking them to do in an offense like this. Allows you to get to 7 wins and, keep limping along until you get to the Big Ten or the SEC, right? Which I think is kind of the, like, not have to pay a $50 million buyout, which you'd probably have to finance at this point. So, I think like they probably executed the plan of don't get fired pretty well and cohesively. And defensively, I think they got lucky as hell that Tony White was available.
Yeah, really good pedigree on that guy, right?
There. Like Malzahn, I don't think a lot of people wanted him. Okay. Tony White, I think a lot of people did. And, I think they got lucky there, and that's much to FSU's benefit.
What about you, Jeff? Kind of same question. There's a lot that they needed to get accomplished. There was a lot that they needed everywhere. I mean, this whole offense is new. Most of this defense is new. Even the guys that were contributing, I don't know, dude. They're scrapping with coaches. They're getting thrown off the team. It's kind of a mess right now. How would you rate this offseason? There was a lot they had to get done, and they almost checked off every one of those boxes.
Yeah, I think Bud's right about, the baseline raising the floor sort of approach here was, that was such an unmitigated disaster. You've got to find a way to build a base of success to where you could keep your job and then have that be a springboard to something better. If you're looking for a year, the second year of this and the third year of this, I understand that it's less than ideal when you're in year 6 that you're doing that. So that's a bit of a problem, but your problems are your problems and you got to remedy them. And so I think this was the best way to go about it. I do think they've raised the floor. I think there's a certain level of success that they're going to have based on bringing a Gus Malzahn in and just sort of the success rate that he has in running the football. They're going to run the football, maybe not against Bama, but they're going to run the football against most of the other teams, certainly in the ACC. So I think that they knew that there was a way to raise the floor, and they went about it that way. It's frustrating. Like if I talk about it from the standpoint of being if you're a Florida State fan, it's less than ideal to have these kind of conversations where you're talking about, well, we're just buying time until we can get to the money trough. It's hurtful to have that conversation because you know what this program was. You know what this program has been frequently. You know what it was even 2 years ago, which was undefeated in the regular season. And to now have to set your sights at just being marginally decent in a middling conference is pretty tough to accept. But once you accept that that's your reality, then I think, you say, all right, well, can we get to 8 wins? And can we get to 7 wins? Can we get somewhere in that range? And then the debates can begin amongst the Florida State faithful, which is, if you win 7 games and 2 of them are automatically given, that means you won 5. Should you keep your job? But I think Bud's right when he's referencing the money. So it's this sort of thing like bide your time, hope like hell you can get some sort of positive momentum moving in the right direction and get to 8 wins and stick around until you get into one of the Super 2, if you will.
Yeah, it's a weird place to be because you're talking about one of the historically, especially recently, like best college football programs ever. And we're hoping for wow, I hope we can be as good as like Dave Doran's 4th best NC State team since he's been in the AC. But if you don't expect that, you're going to drive yourself crazy because the depth isn't there. It's just it's a weird holding pattern, place to be. And
it hurts.
Yeah, you're just trying to avoid lame duck status, man. It's a weird, I can't quite think of another comparison to another coach's tenure where the lows, the highs, the low again. I don't historically it's a very unique situation that Florida State's in. But I don't know. So Brendan, Mike and the boys threw your scrawny ass out of camp. They don't want you there looking at practices. They're tired of your BS, dude. So you've got your sources. You tried to put on the fake mustache in Jacksonville. Appreciate the chutzpah.
I did put it on.
Yeah, and you got. By the way, just
it was not appreciated.
Oh, really, dude? Great gag. I mean, no chuckles from the guys. That's okay, not bad. I think you might have got scammed. Anyway, you've got sources. We've all got sources. What's been the biggest story of camp to you, whether positive or negative? I'll open it up to you on that one.
Positively, I think it's that. And grain of salt here because they felt good about the offense last year. But I think in the last week and a half or so, somewhere around Jacksonville, honestly, maybe a little bit after that second scrimmage, the optimism about what the offense can be with another caveat, if it stays healthy, that's Tommy Castellanos and the offensive tackles, a few other pieces, starting wide receivers. Depth gets shaky. But that Mike Norvell feels good about it. Gus Malzahn, even just his demeanor, he seems more relaxed as far as Gus goes. He's been pretty amiable and chill the last few times we've seen him, so that's been good. Okay. I know he's just warming up to us and just appreciates my general quirkiness in the press conference setting.
Well, who doesn't? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. We talked about the weather the other day. It was good. It was good. But no, he seems kind of at peace with things. I think Mike likes what they have, and just talking to people around the program, it's like they like the skill talent, the offensive line having some level of cohesiveness for a while. So that's been kind of a surprising development because when things started, I just, when Trey, when you mentioned Tony White, Jeff nodded his head adamantly. Or maybe it was, Bud mentioned him and Jeff nodded his head adamantly. And that was my thought too, is yes, they got lucky with Tony White. The offense potentially being the unit that gives them the most confidence is a little surprising. That's the other thing that was been a little disappointing, I guess, is the defensive front has just underwhelmed, I guess. And yeah, Darrell Jackson and James Williams, I think they're confident with them. But some of those depth pieces, we just either gone silent or just been relegated to this guy can maybe do this one thing, like Demonte Diggs can maybe help us out in pass rushing downs, maybe. which is a good trick to have, but there's not total confidence there. So those kind of developments give me a little bit of leeriness going into the season.
What about you, Jeff? Biggest story of camp for you so far, positive or negative?
I think they love 3 receivers, and I'm excited about that. The receiving corps sucked so bad a year ago; it was impossible to watch. It was very difficult to stomach. Now that went along with a lot of other elements that were terrible. But I would say that I think that I'm very, very excited about Deuce, and I know they are too. I think they've got a real star, like a very, very good player at the position. And if you think about it, it's been a minute since they had a position. And listen, the only other thing that I would say seems obvious, which is that Chroma has a chance to be a star. Mm-hmm. And I think we knew that when they got him and for what they paid for him, it was going to be a big deal. It's nice to know that the investment so far looks like it's like you buy this television and it's as beautiful as it looked in the showroom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
it's not just the Walmart with like the mountain screen in the background. It's like, no, dude, the Pirates and the Cubs looks pretty good at this on like a Sunday night or something. Yeah.
When you walk into a Best Buy or a Costco, they've got it set up perfectly. It's in 4K and they got it all the way that you think it should look, but it doesn't always look that way when you get home. Apparently Chroma looks the way that they hope that the new shiny toy would look. So that's exciting. I want to go back to really quick the Tony White thing. It sounds like to me, from what I can understand in my brief conversations with Tony White and then just talking to some people, I did some work with the Nebraska site early on. And I think Matt Rule pissed him off, quite frankly. I don't
know about what though, but that's the vibe I got too.
Yeah, so something happened there, and I think it happened around the Indiana game, which was a nightmare for them.
Yeah, they got bombed on, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was weird because it was coming off of a bye, and they got beat 56-7. The weird thing about that is you would think that it would all go spiraling, and then they show up in Columbus, Ohio, and play great and totally shut down a fierce rushing attack. So I don't know what happened there, but whatever happened there led to Tony White saying, I'm out. And so they got this opportunity. We all know who the agent is, and it works out. Mike's able to bring in a guy, and I think Tony's a dude. The problem is, to Brendan's point, I don't think they have the personnel to run what they want to run. So as excited as I am about Tony, I think they're going to get worn down in the games against good teams. Just put it that way. It's a very generalized statement, but like against good teams, I think they're in trouble. I think it'll work against the vast majority of the teams they play, just not the big four, if you will. So I'm worried about that, but I love that Chroma might be the real deal, maybe even a star. And I love that they got a wide receiver that they're excited about because I've been waiting on that for a while.
I agree. And you're right about that nauseating offense. I saw a story, it was on Twitter. There's radioactive shrimp at Walmart. And I was like, man, that's what Florida State's offense was last year. That great value Chernobyl shrimp. That's the whole plate of it every single week. But I want to get to you because there has been a lot of with the camp stuff. It's always a zero-sum game, right? Offense is running the ball great. That's because defensive line is ass. Well, the receivers are looking great because the DBs are getting bombed on. And you could see that always in the fan comments of like the God help social media interns that got to post like camp clips, right? It's a cesspool in the comments. But have you generally felt better or worse about this team, Bud Elliott, as camp has went on? Because I don't know how I feel personally.
I would say better just because I feel like they got very little done in spring. So I felt like they were in catch-up mode really entering the fall, and I had said on Cover 3 a while back, like, I think Bama stomps them because they're kind of doing their spring stuff in fall, honestly. And that you're probably going to play 4 of the 8 best offensive lines in the country if you look at these pre-draft lists.
Yeah.
And then nobody else in like the top 35. Like, I think the drop-off in terms of quality you see offensive line-wise is stark. Like, Florida's got a bunch of kids ready to be drafted. Miami's got a bunch. Hell, Bama put 3 kids on the offensive line on Feldman's freaks list.
Yeah.
And people seem to like Clemson's offensive line a lot this year. Like, there were some games certainly last year where they didn't look anything special, but they're probably pretty good. I mean, maybe they're not top 10, but they're certainly not like, outside the top 25 offensive line-wise. So I think just the fact that most of your guys on offense have stayed healthy is a good sign. And I think I'm willing to buy that the guys you paid up for are giving what you thought they would give.
Sure.
You know, like I don't think the money they paid for Castellanos implies some massive passing improvement, right? Like, bro, you came here to run the ball and to throw some deep shots. Okay, don't do really dumb stuff. I think they can get that out of him. You know, like I think most of the offensive linemen that they paid up for are giving them what they expected. You know, I'm really excited. Right tackle from Ole Miss, like that.
Pettis, yeah.
Like I think that's probably most like the fact he's actually been out there and not like constantly dinged up. And you know, like I know Ole Miss was not super happy with him all the time. Like that's a good thing that you're getting that result there. I think that allows you to win. You know, like Jeff said, maybe you can get to 8 wins. I don't know they will, but like I think you have a lot of dudes who are probably playing like you had hoped they would play when you paid them.
Do you worry about, to me, the offense running on the defense, and Tony White, a guy who I really respect schematically for all the different things that he does? How hamstrung do you think he is from what he can do, Bud, this year with his personnel? And where do you think, what games is that going to hurt Florida State in the most? Or is he going to be able to run the type of fronts that he wants to run, and he's excited with the DB talent he has? Like, where do you stand on that?
I think he can run what he wants to run. I just think the negative outcomes are probably larger when you get it. Like you're going to have to blitz a whole lot more. If they didn't have James Williams, who the hell is rushing the passer for this team?
Dude, I got nobody. I like a linebacker coming off the edge. Yeah.
So it's James Williams, and other than that, we're manufacturing.
Yeah.
Okay. So like if you got to bring a boatload of blitz and pressure, when you miss. The results probably aren't going to be pretty. So I would expect now maybe Malzahn's cool with this because you know it means we want to run tempo. We're going to get the ball back faster, whether it's via turnover or 3 and out because you got a negative play or you gave up a score. You probably end up playing a lot of high scoring games that way. I don't think it's necessarily ideal, but it's probably not that far outside of like the range of what they want to play to, given their personnel.
And like with Zach Arnett being brought on as an analyst, dude, I mean, you've got some pretty aggressive defensive guys where it's not ideal, but the two sides of the ball could be complementary depending on how much they want to push the tempo on offense, right?
I think so, yeah. And look what he did at Mississippi State. He didn't have amazing pass rushers there, right? And like he did some pretty good job creating pressure. That's an interesting question. Like how much 3-3 are they going to run?
I don't know, because you wouldn't think. I mean, Brendan, this is a great question.
On the field at the same time.
Yeah,
and go like more dime stuff.
It'll be interesting because I'm with you. I think that the confusion, they're going to have to rely on that. They're going to have to put some sort of hesitancy in these like better offensive lines they're going to face. And I think they're going to have to do it by exposing themselves to risk, by kind of laying on the scheme. Brendan, what do you think as far as like the 3 down, 4 down? That's something that Kevin, Adam, and I have talked about extensively. Like, well, we think they're going to run 4 because we've seen them run 4 a little bit in what we've seen. But it's like, okay, you bring in Zach Arnett to run 3. I mean, your linebackers are probably a deeper group than your defensive linemen. Ideally, you'd want to have more than. I don't know, dude. So I'm a moron. So I'm trying to piece it all out in my head. So can you help me piece it out a little bit?
I think the answer is going to be yes. Like, I think they're going to do a lot.
Yes to what? Don't do the whole yes to everything.
I'm going to get into it. A 3-man front and a 4-man front. They will go back and forth. I think. I don't know what the percentage is going to be. And part of this is like, I mean, when Tony White first got here and his staff, like we had heard that Jack hybrid position that gives him a 4-man front. We're not going to do that. Well, now they started to do it, and they recruited for it. And we've heard throughout the offseason, the starting lineup is probably going to be some combination of James Williams, Darrell Jackson, Daniel Lyons if he's fully healthy at that point, and then Jason Jenkins if he's fully healthy at that point. But with Bud talking about the amount of like money and how that's been allocated, he might have been your most expensive or one of your most expensive acquisitions. The fact that he's able to have a chance of playing at week 1 is a huge deal for Florida State. Just for resource allocation with Jason Jenkins. But anyways, that 4-man front, it's like that's what it would look like if they go with 4. But I think they're doing a lot of stuff that we know who their 3 starting linebackers are. So that would imply that there is a level of Omar Graham, Justin Cryer, Juice Cryer, and Elijah Herring that they're going to go 3-man stuff. So I don't know what the ratio is going to be. I think that presents like a few things. One, the fact that there's not a true like surefire element of what they're going to look like. That's kind of what Tony White does. It's kind of the positive part of his background, of his MO. Is like you don't know exactly what it's going to look like down to down, game to game, series to series. Like you just don't know. It also lends me to believe it's like they don't have like a dominant strength, a surefire thing that they can kind of hang their hat on. So you're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to use the areas that you do have depth. And while collectively or singularly, you may not have a super deep like defensive end group or interior defensive line or linebacker group, if you mix all those together, you might be okay. And I think that's kind of what the methodology is going to be. Did that answer it to your liking?
Got a defense in the aggregate. Yeah, dude, you don't know. We don't know. It's just fun because it really is a we don't know season, man. And it'll be funny. And maybe it's one of those deals where they're going to throw some stuff against the wall, and maybe they're going to have to do something different in game 4 than they will in game 7. Like Mike used to do that on the offensive side, right? Where he'd primarily, like, you'd always see, like in 2023, 2022, one guy on offense would be the guy, almost like they game plan for that specific matchup. It'll be interesting to see if you can do that on defense. But as we're talking, Jeff, last year doesn't seem that far away. The coaches are saying things with a lot more scrutiny from the people listening to them. Do you feel better or worse about this team's chances to, Thomas Castellanos, as he said, to have everybody keep their job as camp has gone on? Fun quotes. That's a fun quotable, kid.
It's a very fun quote. I'm sure they loved hearing that. I feel better. I don't know how you certainly couldn't be worse. What I feel better about is I do like that there's been somewhat of a no-nonsense approach to assessing the daily practices and the assessment of personnel. Like, you're not getting the pie in the sky stuff that you got a year ago from Mike.
Mm-hmm.
The references to the greatest, most powerful, and best offensive line he's ever had. Obviously, it turned out to be a most unfortunate quote, but you're not hearing any of that. You're hearing about the need to be better every day, and like, that they like that the guys are working hard and playing hard, and it's such a low bar. But we watched an indifferent group play football a year ago, and I think fans can accept a level of poor play and mediocrity, even bad play, if they think the kids are playing hard. If the guys that you run out there are doing what's asked of them, they care about each other and they sacrifice for one another. It sounds cheesy, but I think it's true. Like, you've got to see a bunch. I remember those Leonard Hamilton basketball teams before he got it turned around. Yeah. They played really effing hard, and you'd watch them lose, and you're like, I can live with that. They're playing hard as hell. They care. They're just not good enough. And I think there's going to be an element of they're just not good enough when they play Alabama, when they play Clemson. I think those are two games for sure where you're going to leave the stadium going, well, they're just not good enough.
Yeah.
But I can live with that. I think most people can live with that. You got to play hard. You got to care, especially on defense. But I feel better, certainly, about what their floor is going to be. And I feel that they're going to be a much better team to watch. What I worry about is, and you guys were just sitting around kicking around the idea of what that defense is going to look like, whether it's a 3-man front, a 4-man front, how it's going to look. You almost think about amoeba defenses and things of that ilk. But what I laugh about is, like, at the end of the day, if you're not deep enough, you get worn down against the good teams that are going to run right at you. And why wouldn't Bama, with a new quarterback, run right at you when you have 3 offensive linemen projected to go in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft, another couple that might go in the 3rd or 4th round? Why would you not just run right at Florida State and test their chin? And I think you're going to get that. And I want to know what Tony's going to do about that if you simply don't have the personnel to stop it. Mm-hmm. Now, if you stack, that's fine. Well, you're going to leave Ryan Williams one-on-one? So, like, it's going to be an interesting approach to the game. But nonetheless, no, I think that I've appreciated a more honest assessment of the day-to-day operation and what they do have and what they don't have. I think there are guys they're excited about on both sides of the ball. I just don't know that it's enough.
Yeah, I feel like I'm with you. There may be a couple, there's levels to this type of performance thing, especially and that's another, I don't even want to get into that because that's speculative. Like, I like their ones. Like, I like the starting 11 on each side enough, but man, there's some positions where it gets pretty woeful if your depth gets tested. But to your point, man, I really usually like to keep it around those, like, objective hard factors, like what they're doing, scheme, matchups, all that. But dude, what you just said, that attitude thing, the amount of, like, quit and loaf and bullshit that was on the field last year, that it was shown from the players that they allowed to continue to play, which is just kneecapping your culture and your accountability. At least from like the comments, like Tony White's like kind of like scorched earth a little bit presser or whatever about these guys got to step up. That to me is a positive development in and of itself, because it does seem like accountability is brought back. Now, when the kid who's loafing is your best player, do you have the stones when the bullets are flying to actually take that kid out? That's what's really going to test it, man. Like, there's a lot of coach speak going on. I feel pretty positive about it, but to be honest, I'm not really 100% sure yet, right?
I don't know how that couldn't be the approach. You tried it the other way a year ago and lost anyhow.
Yeah.
So what was the point of that? What was the point of keeping people on the field who weren't going to play hard for you each week? I mean, not only did you lose, you alienated the fan base.
You lost it all, right? You lost everything.
You lost the culture. You lost the kids. You can't. That can never happen. I'd rather go 0-12, and they're not going to. I'd rather go 0-12 with kids that I know that show up every Saturday and will play hard. I mean, what are we even doing here?
Yeah.
If you run guys out there that won't play hard.
It was kind of abhorrent to watch, but I like talking. Go ahead.
Do you think taking guys from like non-Georgia, non-Bama rosters, like, because
I know where you're going.
I have some worry here, and like just follow me for a second. I'm not saying like, yeah, take guys, bunch of losing programs, that's the ticket, y'all. But like my point here is like trying to like last year, I think Mike was probably shell shocked off that Orange Bowl. He realized, damn it, I really screwed up not giving a damn about recruiting high school, and like our players don't look like Georgia's players. They don't.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we got to try to thread this needle of getting bodies off those rosters, but also try to see if they can play them right away. And a lot of those guys either weren't ready, or in some cases will never be ready, because there's a reason they weren't playing at those schools. Now you go and get some guys who have much higher floor and much lower ceilings, to be frank. Like, a lot of these guys are going to go pro in something other than sports that you took in the portal. And that's fine, because you're trying to not get fired. I don't think they really focus on upside on this rebuild. But like, man, if you played for Vanderbilt for 3 years, that's a lot of losing. And like, you still have to get up and go do your job the next day, and you have to get up and go play. Like same thing at Wake Forest. Like, those guys are fighting to make a bowl. My hope is that they don't come to Florida State and think because they throw on the garnet and gold that they're automatically going to go 12-0, because that's what they grew up watching probably. And like, so maybe a Bama loss doesn't kind of break them. But I hope that like maybe getting some of these guys who have lost ball games for, still rolled out of bed, went to practice the next day. Hey, we got more games to play. I hope they have like a more workmanlike kind of professional approach about it this year, because they've lost before, and you're going to lose games of this year for sure.
Well, I think you're right. And it's more like, I hate to use stuff like this, but there is more of an appreciation for the facilities, the actual effort that's required. I think, Brendan, you've seen a lot of the transfers this year are holding veteran dudes that have been on the roster. They were holding them accountable in practices, which was not happening last year. And it's like, it's like a soccer analogy, right? Like, if unfortunately you're a middle of the road team right now with the Florida State, do you take the guy who is out like drinking with the broads in the clubs in London from like Manchester United, or do you get like the scrappy dude from like Ipswich that is like chomping at the bit to play? Like, number one, this is a very stupid question, because you're Florida State. You should not have to make these choices with the gazillions of dollars that are invested into your coaching staff, facilities, and the geographic location of your program. That's a whole nother discussion. But to me, they tried it with the dudes that couldn't see the field at Bama. They bet on potential, and they got smoked across the board. They kind of did a whole sea change. You're kind of doing it the exact opposite way right now. But I don't know. Maybe they're lowering that expectations, like you were saying, Bud. Maybe in 2024, Mike was trying to play to get like, if this Benson kid hits, if the Roydell kid hits, like if Marvin Jones Jr. like pretends like he likes football for 11 games or whatever, like we could win 10. And it's like, dude, 10 is so far out of their mindset right now. It's like, give me that solid 7 or 8 so that I don't have to put my Christmas tree in my front yard. You know what I mean?
That's the byproduct of the snub. And I don't mean mentally.
Yes.
That they did that because they didn't want to take a step back. I think that was the direct result of the snub. I think if they had gone to the playoff and lost, they would have been willing to let it ride with either Luke or Brock and just see what they had and lose 4 or 5 games and build up the depth of the young guys and just go from there. They would have been less portal oriented. but I think that they were like, F that. We're not taking a step back. We're going for it again. We're going to prove it. And, listen, it's a weird analogy, but I think my man got high on his own supply because, look, he had been so successful bringing in guys from the portal and they had so many wins that he was like, I can do it. I'm the portal master. You know what? We'll go grab this kid. His upside is huge. Jaylen Brown is really fast. I'll bring in this guy. We'll throw off a play action. I got a big arm guy. I don't need him to do much else. He thought their offensive line was good. Turns out it was ass, and that a lot of those players who had been playing with injuries regressed considerably. Now, that's a little bit unlucky, but, you had some evidence that it could happen. Anyhow, the bottom line is they had a lot of guys fall back. The quarterback got hurt. They wouldn't bother to tell that. They still won't tell you that, but he did, clearly. And you had nothing. Everything you bet on, everything you invested in fell to pieces. Now, I can forgive being wrong. What I don't like is once the evidence was overwhelming, you continue to bang your head against a wall.
Stubborn, right?
Yeah, and that drove me nuts. And we could relitigate it. We shouldn't, but I think that was the direct result of the snub. People talk about the mental aspect of the snub. I don't think it was that. I think it affected the motivations in the offseason. Not of the players to work, but of the coaching staff and what Mike thought was what he should do.
I'd agree with that too. And that would kind of explain that slow start in that first portal session, other than the shell shock of like the snub and everything like that. It was like, well, they kind of like recalibrated everything in their it felt like there was a shift in their like long-term projections and planning. And they'll never tell you this, man, but Mike's a Division I head football coach. There is coaching hubris of like some coaches have the recruiting hubris, or I can go in any living room and get any kid. Mike's hubris is I can coach this kid better than he's been coached, and I can get them all to play the way that they need to play. And he sure as hell did not think that he had a 2-win club in his bag, because nobody watching the team ever thought that was in the realm of possibility. And now that we know that it can happen anywhere, even in Tallahassee, it's a very interesting thing. Bud, one question for you before I move on to kind of like the next topic. You have great national perspective. So to maybe either make Florida State fans more depressed or talk them off the ledge a little bit, you get to hear how everybody's camp is going across the nation. How do you rate how Florida State's camp has been compared to everybody else's in terms of injuries, gelling units? Like, where does Florida State rank in the national pantheon of camps?
I think, knock on wood here, guys, but pretty good.
I didn't want to screw it over.
Yeah. You get guys get banged up, but like, Wynn's going to be back by conference play for sure, I would think, right? And maybe earlier, who knows? Jenkins is progressing faster than I think some of us thought he would when we first heard about the injury, a couple months ago. Certainly faster than I thought he would.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody out there right now. They're like, damn it, like that guy's done for the year. Who matters? And like that I think, at least not that I'm aware of. Some of these programs out there are having tough camps. Like Virginia's already lost both tackles and 3 starting DBs and Cam Robinson. Remember FSU recruited Cam Robinson. That kid was really good.
Yeah.
And
He didn't come here because his mom got sick on the flight down, and she was like, "No, we're not."
Yeah, it was the distance. He was the linebacker kid, right? Then the distance was a big factor. Yeah, no, it was a very good kid.
NFL kid. Well, he's going to miss a month. So when you're talking some of the most important players you have, they're already gone. Florida, for all the talent they have, how many passes has Lagway actually thrown in a team practice setting?
Depends who you ask, dude, because I get conflicting stuff all over the place on how hurt that kid is or isn't, right? There's a lot of weird stuff.
3 injury things with him in the last calendar year that have come up, and a lot of them are like soft tissue or non-contact type of stuff. It's just it's been strange. All different injuries too.
And then you throw on the Ole Miss and the LSU tape, he looks like Ben Roethlisberger. Like, okay. So how do you square
so the bottom line is with Florida, if he plays, they're good. If he doesn't, they suck.
Well, remember, because they did not get to keep their backup they wanted. The backup left for Wake.
But they're done if he doesn't play.
Yeah, like they're losing season. Napier's fired if Lightweight doesn't play most of the games. Yeah, agreed. I think the camp's gone fairly well overall. I'm not saying it went perfectly, but it's camp, and I think it was a very physical camp. They wanted to give these guys more toughness. So if you're going to run that kind of camp, you're going to get bangs and bruises, man. I think it went pretty good.
Good. So see, guys, just once again, national perspective, things like that. Jeff, a question for you. This is such and it's really hard I feel like people are just starting to get back into like, oh, cool, football starting and getting themselves excited. There was like a weird long hangover of like last year, which really kind of depressed the fan base in a lot of different ways, right? But you got Doak getting renovated, and you've got a very intriguing team, and you got a lot of intriguing dynamics on this team. You've got the whole Gus Mike thing. A guy is working for you that you used to work for. You've never really given up the total reins to your offense. Now you're giving it up to your old mentor. He's used to being a head coach and making some of the calls. How do you think that dynamic is going to work? And some of the other things that have maybe kind of tested Mike's CEO status in the offseason, the comments that you're getting, like the Castellanos comments are objectively hilarious, right? But that's not the type of polished media presence that Mike wants his guys to say. Like, I don't want to say that he's losing a little bit of control of the ship, but it's weird. There's been some weird kind of changes. So how do you think just the dynamic of Mike is the CEO running the team with a loquacious quarterback and an old wily mentor that he used to like run with? How do you think that's all going to work, man? Could it blow up spectacularly, or is it going to go pretty smooth?
No, it could be a miserable failure. It could, there's no doubt it could. I think Mike had to make a decision. Obviously he made a lot of them, but if you are going to turn the reins over to your offense and you're an offensive guy, to one of your old mentors, I think you got to do it fully. I think you have to acquiesce across the board and just give him the reins, and he runs the offense. And then you better embrace the hell out of your new role. I think he doesn't have much of a choice, first of all. But secondly, I think in doing it, there's a difference between saying the right thing in public and making those hires and then being happy about it and doing it willingly and embracing what aspect that aspect of your job that you're giving up. Like I hope that that's what he's done. None of us can know. We're not behind the scenes. We're not in those meetings, that we don't listen to those discussions. I think it really comes to a head when you have some big moments in a game, and now a head coach has to make a very big decision regarding a 4th down and short yardage play late in the game, a 1-score game, and you're at the 40-yard line. What do we do here? Is that Mike or is that Gus? Who's making that decision? I feel like this offseason has revealed pretty clearly, starting with the media being locked out, that he's given it over to Gus. Mm-hmm. Gus is an old school guy. And so I think that there's no doubt that my man is he's handed it over. And he's got to hope like hell that Gus makes it work. I don't think he has a choice. It could blow up in his face. I think it would be weird. I've never been in that position. I don't mean that like to look, cast aspersions against Mike or anything like that. No. A man's making $10 million a year. He's done all right for himself. But what I'm saying is that I've never been in a position where I've been somebody's boss for a long period of time or at any point, and then I have to turn it back and turn it over to them at some point down the road. That would be weird. I don't know. We'll see if it works. It can if he embraces his CEO role, because it does free him up to find out what else is going on with this team. And it certainly frees him up to do all the other things a modern day head coach has to do. And it frees him up also to have one-on-one conversations with players. It frees him up in game to ride officials in a way that he couldn't in the past and try to manipulate that. And that's a big deal, by the way.
He's good at that stuff, dude. He really is, I think.
And he now has the opportunity. If he sees a kid spiraling, Gus is calling the next play, not you, Mike. You don't have to get your head in that sheet. Go over there and talk to that kid. You've got opportunities there, and we've seen it work. We've seen CEO coaches kind of become the thing over time. It wasn't always that way. I didn't always love it, but I was wrong, because I watched a lot of guys who, quote unquote, had that label turn out, championships. So it can work. It can work if you embrace it.
What does that include? Tempo?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You're talking about decision making, bud. Because
I'm talking about because I think.
Who controls the tempo of the offense?
That's the decision. Going to want to run this thing fast. It's not a real complicated playbook. He's going to want to run it, fast.
But Bud, and Brendan, Trey, you guys know. Listen, if you're thin on defense,
Yeah,
we
but
really
does
want to
offense
do
work if
this.
you go slow? I don't think so. Like what's your trade-off in offensive efficiency you're losing by going at a more normal tempo?
Yeah. Well, I think if you're not physically tough enough up front, then you've got to play fast all the time to offset those weaknesses. But if your defense is not physically equipped or deep enough, you're going to, you 1 or 2 3 and outs in 5 seconds and good night, Irene.
And it's interesting too, and it's something I think he brought up on one of his most recent Nolecast. Mike's always been a guy that coaches to win the game. I've always actually been impressed with like his game logic. Like when he makes the decision, like those borderline decisions, he always does the one to win the game, which exposes you to the blowout, right? You're in coach for your life mode. Like I wonder if his game logic is going to change, because that would suck if. Yeah, exactly. Like, do I reduce the blowouts because whatever? Like, I'd rather lose to Miami by 7 and have no chance to beat them rather than lose to your rival by 20 and would have had a chance to maybe beat him in the second quarter if this play would have gone right.
Would that be disturbing to you? If he that's a core
yes,
ethos
to
thing
me, I think so. It would be a core ethos change. Yes, it would be very disturbing to me.
Changed it, bud.
McGuire used to make really good, efficient decisions and like had a little bit of bad string of like negative variance, and then just totally went like conservative, negative EV stuff.
Do you think, though? Listen, they got the hell blown out last year a lot. Yeah. They went 2-10. They lost, and I was there for every last second of it, 52-3 to Notre Dame. They didn't belong. It was cold. And it was cold, and it sucked, and we were ridiculed by the second quarter. The point is, you get beat 52-3, you lose 10 games, you're the laughingstock of football. I don't know how that doesn't scar you in a way that might affect your decision-making about some of the tougher games on your schedule.
I think the counters, Mike's getting his $50 million, whether he wins or loses. Might as well go down swinging.
Fair enough.
You would hope. It's just one of those things, man, and it would just be another list. And I get worried when the things that got people successful, like you see like a very successful coordinator go to a school and they get more talent, and then they had a really complex scheme or very unique, and they get vanilla because it's like, I never had a defensive tackle like this before, and then they kind of suck, right? Because what brought them to the dance? If the things that brought Mike to the dance, he used to be an open media guy. He's not anymore. He used to shout it from the rooftops, like, this is going to be the most open program and my players are going to learn how to do interviews and blah, blah, blah. You're not anymore. Whatever. It's a data point. If you start becoming like the field goal guy and the punt guy, and then it's just another thing that you changed, and I don't know. We'll see. I think that is a thing that we will monitor here at Noles 24/7. I know you guys will at Warchant. I know you guys will on the Nolecast. I think that the whole dynamic of how the team's going to be run, because Mike's a good CEO coach. He's good at hounding the officials. We all remember that Deuce Spann conversation with Miami where he talked that kid off the ledge. That was one of the coolest coaching moments. Like, it was awesome. He's great at that stuff. He's a really good game logic, like wins above replacement coaching decision guy. He's like in the upper third of the country or something. But I made that number up, bud. If it's wrong, I know that you know it's wrong. I apologize in advance, pulling it out of my ass. But if you become a CEO coach and then you start doing all the CEO stuff worse, that would suck. Keep an eye on it. Something to worry. Team dynamic, how it's going to run, is something that we need to talk about.
The trick, Trey, when you pull a number out of your ass and say it with great assertiveness, is not to draw attention to the fact that you made it up.
I got a lot to learn, man. I got to hang out with you more, right? I'm sweating. Anytime I say like a number or like a thing,
you said it with such gusto.
I know.
Nobody was going to question it.
I could see Bud, dude. A vein was popping out. It's like, don't talk about numbers, man. You're not the numbers.
That's a professional.
What happened?
Bud's a professional. He would have texted you after the show and said, where the fuck did you get that from? But he was not going to.
Don't you step on my lane, brother.
My stuff doesn't match that quite fully.
Yeah. That was an interesting chat you had there, Trey.
Oh, good stuff, dude. All right. So quick question. Brendan, I'm going to go to you. Bud, he talked about this. This game is coming up. Bama. Does Florida State have an actual chance? You've seen more. Like, you can go yes, no, be as elaborative as you want. I got some other topics, and I know these guys got busy lives, but does Florida State got a chance against Bama, Brendan?
Yes, they have a chance. Can I derail it real quick by throwing a question out there?
You know what, dude? We're 40 minutes in. You haven't done it yet. I'm pretty proud of you. Go ahead.
How scared are you guys on a scale of 1 to 10 of just the whole weekend.
Oh,
For all the
Like,
reasons.
mixed
There's
against
literally
hurricane too?
poop water that was just chilling outside the stadium 2 days ago.
Oh, that
The
was
field is
tough.
half
Yeah.
naked right now at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock on a Wednesday. We're 10 days away. Like, anxiety, I know me. I got more cool, collected, worldly fathers here around me. Scale of 1 to 10. Are you guys freaking out about this? Come on, a little. A little.
I don't trust Florida State.
Man, I
Yeah,
have,
dude, same.
this doesn't feel good. Listen, it may all go. Okay, continue.
Hey, can we do this? You just did it, so we're opening the door. Let's have a real conversation. What the hell with the field? You can't tell.
Like, we think they,
Bud.
you
The
think they
lights
installed
were
original
last
equipment
minute
correctly?
too at the end of the beginning of last season, dude. I don't even want to get into the lights.
There's no way
Yeah.
this is intentional.
There's
No, this is not
zero
intentional.
chance this was intentional.
I can confirm.
Okay, breaking news.
This is not mine. This is someone else. I don't want to. Noles247 can confirm that this was not intentional. This was
Of course it
an
wasn't.
plan.
Of course, but Brendan, you knew that just
10
by the
days
timing.
before. Well, of course, but like,
Dude, the fans on Twitter are all sod experts now. It's like, oh, this is totally normal, bro.
No,
Don't
there's
worry about
zero
it.
chance this was intentional.
Now the alarmist part is like, okay, you maybe knew that when you had a bunch of tractor trailers parked on the field that something could go awry grass, if you will. Sorry, Trey. Keep it moving.
Is that a whiskey read?
Oh,
Ooh, right whiskey. There we go. Now we're talking language here.
Whoopsies.
But still, this was not ideal. Yeah, the pipe bursting or whatever, I assume that was construction based. I mean, there's been setbacks, and like that's kind of expected. Football only facility's been pushed back too. Like, I don't know, man.
So don't. How about you don't make a statement earlier in the summer and tell everybody that you're a month ahead of schedule?
Yeah, I agree with that too. There's optics, and that's what the thing that scares me, guys, is like the performance on the field is going to matter, because if you play poorly, we're not talking about a loss. Like if you play tough, and what you guys are talking about, the effort stuff, if that's there, you're competitive going, like, I think most people would be fine with that. The way the schedule sets up is that it'll be a whole nother month until anyone has any idea what, and the people not going to. I know our business is going to hurt if they get blown out. Like those are all things. Florida State's business is going to hurt, and based on what last season was, the amount of money that you just put into everything, like there's potential for catastrophic, like a lot of stuff. I don't want to be an alarmist, but like this has to look okay. The way the field looks, the way concession stands, all that stuff works. Can't be potty stuff
for better or for worse.
To answer your question, yeah, I think we're all a little apprehensive, a little nervous. Yeah, sure.
They
haven't exactly hit it out of the park in recent times when it comes to these kinds of things on and off the field.
2 stadium DJs this year, right, dude? Like, for better or for worse, Michael Alford has made himself one of the most consequential athletic directors in the history of Florida State, and the bill for some of these decisions is going to cumulatively add up, and there are either a lot of right decisions or a lot of wrong decisions.
You're right about that, but the reason that he is the most consequential, one of the most consequential athletic directors we've seen, is because he's the first athletic director they've had since Dave Hart who was free to make decisions.
Fair. For better or for worse.
And in a time period where there's just a ton of change happening in the landscape too. It's all kind of aligned, and he's taking big swings at it, and it's either going to be it's going to work out really well, or there's going to be a lot of consequences for a nod that will be a ripple effect for a long time.
What do you think?
I go back and frame everything, and you won the lawsuit, right? And like, just from a conference payout type thing, it's like, look, this is all going to be okay long term. I do think, right? How we get there, there's probably less painful, more painful ways. Like, I think this opening weekend matters a whole lot. Yeah, like people are going to decide to keep donating or not based off their experience.
Yes,
this coming weekend. But like, you'd feel a hell of a lot more nervous about this weekend if you hadn't had the good result with the settlement.
That's a great, and you know what? That's a good long term, because that is the long term like health question. It's like, getting out of it. That's the end game.
Totally, man. But like, we're gonna get where we need to go, and I think the settlement helps.
Good point. I think that's well brought up, Brendan. Like, because you've got experience.
And yes, they can beat Alabama.
Yeah, what do you guys think? Can we beat Alabama and have a great game day experience for the fans? You guys say yes to both?
Come on now. We're asking an awful lot. Can they? Sure, they could.
There we go. Okay, we'll skip past the rest of that.
Yeah.
All right. But I'm gonna kick it to you for one of the last couple topics. What does Mike Norvell need to happen for Florida State in this 2025 season that will keep him from lame duck status? Will guarantee that he can elongate his life more than just a year or two when the buyout becomes more palatable? So what does he need to happen this year? And then what do you expect to actually happen? And maybe those answers are the same.
Man. I don't know.
Tough question.
Do you think he's thinking more than 1 year in advance?
No,
I don't.
Not with the way he built the roster.
Correct. I think he's just trying to not get fired each year at this point.
Which is reasonable. He's doing the right thing, I think, for his own salvation.
Yeah, I mean, if the old head coach doesn't appear to have a lot of long-term planning, I don't really know if we can lay out what it is. It maybe overachieve by a game. Maybe Sperry shows a whole lot of promise. Potentially, if you think
like
he's
the Lagway Billy thing last year, like this is going to be my guy. Give me time with my guy. Yeah,
right. Maybe some of these highly rated kids who you've to this point failed to develop, all of a sudden start showing out a little bit, and you're able to show that and combat some of the pretty justified negative recruiting they face based on some other development failures so far.
Chroma being a star would be that'd be a starting point for you, I think, because that'd be a freshman. That'd be multiple years. He's locked in, localish.
Same goes for Boggs.
Yeah. If you get
by, I think Chroma has the upside that Boggs like if Boggs could be Restrepo, I think they would take that all day.
Yeah,
Restrepo went undrafted. Boggs.
Oh, right. It's relative.
Super productive college guy. I think Chroma actually has next level real upside.
Yeah, I'm not trying to equate the talent, but I'm saying just young guys who have the ability to be good college football players. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like FSU's version of a Devon Bess or something like that. Or I get you with that because there's things you can point to.
Right? Let's say
good call. Yeah.
Really outperform his projection. They're kind of similar players as far as body tape and how they move. You take that in a heartbeat.
And they've got a few guys like that, if you think about it. Let's say Wynn becomes a really, really good player. And let's say, obviously, you've got some young guys that need to be good players. What are you laughing at, Brendan?
Wouldn't that be of this level of just perfect irony if the back against the wall, basically a transition class in year 6 for Mike Norvell, is 7th class, and that's the one where the high school recruiting
and you got the kids on closing day and they close like crap normally, right? Wouldn't that be interesting?
And so maybe if we're looking ahead, if there is a silver lining, maybe you learned your lessons and now you just have to tread water to
survive in order to see it manifest.
Yeah. So maybe back when you guys were talking about the transfer portal theory with Georgia and Alabama kids, I think the biggest thing that we didn't talk about at the time as a collective beat that I wish that there's a red flag that we should have was it wasn't that they went after Alabama, Georgia kids and they that was their strategy to get those body types. I think the thing that I wish I would have thought of in real time was and reported on, they thought that they could go ahead and keep missing into high school ranks and just replace it in the transfer portal. And they were going to go ahead and get the gang back together for all the guys that they missed at some point. And they just thought that was going to be the way to go about it. What the transfer portal was supposed to be initially for them was a bridge to get to a level of sustainability. They never cashed in on that. And that sustainability was supposed to be high school recruiting. So that was always a frustrating element to me, especially in hindsight.
Yeah, that's a good point. I totally agree. And they kind of ignored the cool thing about the transfer portal. It gives you more data with which to make an evaluation a year or two of college, which they seem to actively ignore and continue to talk about high school tape. But once again, could be lessons learned. I'm with you. I think there has to be some degree of overachievement on the actual wins and then some future things that you can point to. It's that's our guy. Wait till you see what he turns into. Jeff, what do you think to really get us to start thinking about Mike Norvell is the long-term, guy that we thought in like a 2023, like planning with this contract, nobody had a big issue with the extension at the time. Is 8 good enough? Does it have to be 9 or above? Like, what are we thinking here just from on the field production?
Well, I think there's a separation between what has to happen in the real world in terms of him keeping his job or not, and then what we would want. Like I think if he goes 7-5, I'd fire him on the spot, but that they won't.
Yeah.
So there's a very big difference between what I want and what I think should happen and what they'll do based on the money. So I think that if I say that you're 7-5, well, that really means you won 5 games of any consequence because you have 2 automatic wins.
Right.
And if you only win 5 games and you're in the FNACC and you're Florida State, what are we doing? But the point is, it doesn't matter because they would keep him after that. I think. Now I don't know what you guys think. I don't know if 6-6 is fireable or 5-7 is what they would fire. I don't know what the number is. But I think there's 2 different things there. I think, and you guys are all better in the realm of recruiting than I am in terms of what they are or are not and have to be. I know what the numbers say, and I know who the kids are, and I know what they haven't done in terms of development, and I know that he can't recruit a top 10 class or hasn't. But what does he have to do? And I'll defer to any of you. What does he have to do to parlay whatever that thing is into recruiting success? Because I got to believe he now knows that everybody's caught up in the portal and that it's not what it once was when you exploited it, rightfully so, before everybody else did. I mean, he did a good job of understanding that this is a quick turnaround. People want wins right now. The only way I can do that is to flip this roster via the portal. And he did it. And he did it better than, I would argue, almost anybody else in the country. But now everybody knows. It's not some great secret. People will grab kids out of the portal who have more money than you to spend. And moreover, the best players in the trenches aren't in the portal. And so that ship has sailed. You're not going to accidentally get a damn Jermaine Johnson anymore. He doesn't exist. It's not going to happen. You're never going to get lucky enough to get a kid out of Albany that very few people know about. And the next thing you know, he's a superstar in the NFL. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so he can't go that route anymore. You can plug some holes, but it's not what it was when it initially developed. So I'm kind of curious, what would have to happen for them to have more success in the high school ranks? Does 8-4 do that?
Well, I think it's a question, but I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on it. It's like, what can they do to have more success? But what's the ceiling of this staff as a recruiting staff at their best? Those are 2 questions to me, because there's stuff they can do better, but I just don't know how good that they can be overall. But you and Brendan know more about that than I do, for sure.
It feels very Dan Mullen-ish to me, right? Like if you couldn't sell 13-0,
right?
I mean, I don't really have any reason to think you could sell 8-4. It's not like Malzahn, some good recruiter. It's not like Herb Hand is some good recruiter.
So ultimately, it comes back on the head coach not being a good recruiter.
And I think not demanding certain level of commitment of recruiting of your guys. Yeah. Okay. Especially when you're in this state, like Mario's going to work his guys to death in recruiting, and Mike doesn't.
I think Mike, and he's never going to be that. He's never
right.
Just that is at this point. And that, I think, is disappointing. We've all kind of settled as like it never has clicked, and we're year 6 now with this. I do think he's held guys more accountable this offseason, but that was a low bar for what it was previously. I think if the cashing in the chips, if you did win 8 games, you had something to sell or whatever it looks like. That's going back to maybe the lessons I've already learned is there's sometimes if you really, really, really like this guy and you're convinced, and I will say this, some of their evaluations, a lot of them not great at this point, but their top end evaluations usually hit on, they just don't get the guys, which is not like, you don't have to pay me a bunch of money to tell you that Jeremiah Smith was going to be good, right? Mm-hmm. But what we saw from this past cycle that I think can be applied is if you really, really, really want Usman Chroma, you go ahead and just reset the market. You get to the point where George is disgusted by it and just like, we can't do it. We just can't do it. And you figure out a way to get that done financially. You make concessions elsewhere. You do what you got to do. And so that's because you're not going to just straight up out recruit people. I don't think at this point. I think it's sobering, but I think that's just where you're kind of at. You're not consistently going to do it.
I got lunch with the GM the other day, right? And he was like, he was pissed at his head coach. This is not Florida State. He was pissed at his head coach. His head coach was permissive of the assistants saying, just go out and buy the kid, right? And the GM's point was, I got to go talk to the collective guy. Okay. You realize how much more expensive it is for us to go just buy the kid if you're not busting your ass to make the relationship with the kid. The kid's going to take a little bit less money and stretch that dollar that the donors give to the collective. If he actually wants to come here based on his belief that you're going to develop him and like you have a good relationship with him. And so I do think like that's an issue. Like you've got to make sure your guys actually recruit and they can't just rely on, the portal advantage that you had being like kind of first mover advantage, but also just you had a pretty big money advantage for about a 2-year span before everybody else was like, oh, well, we should have a collective. Like that's,
yeah, no, absolutely.
And so I that's not just an FSU thing. Like that's something a lot of these guys in personnel, fight. Like the head coach allows this type of stuff. So making sure that you are still recruiting, it does matter. Like the money's going to matter. You can't be, 700,000 off, but maybe being 25,000 off is not a deal breaker if the kid actually wants to come to your school, and that adds up.
Oh yeah, cumulatively for sure, absolutely, and we've seen that. Like kids don't go to the highest bidder a large portion of the time, and it's something that we've talked about consistently. And it's one of those deals because there has to be a mix of you did it on the field, we saw it, it's tangible. We believe that you can do it again. Like the offense you can catch and score touchdowns and stop the run and all this other stuff. And then they do need to have some pillars to actually get people excited to go to the stadium again and again, get booster re-engagement, all this other stuff. So there it does have to be a combination. So it's not just wins on the field. And I'm glad you guys pointed that out. Finally, my final question for all three of you. When is this group of journalistic titans going to get together maybe in some dive in Tallahassee and drop a couple cold domestic American brews sometime? I would enjoy it.
We need you to come to Tallahassee. We need to get you from middle of America to come on down to Tallahassee for that to happen. I think we'll all make time for that.
I'd love to. I mean, I'm talking to like a CBS royalty here. With you can put in a good word, man. Give me just one plane ticket, dude.
Yet for the. I mean, I'm going to go to the game. It's just all.
But he's trying to get a free flight out of you.
I'm trying to get a free flight out of CBS on it, man. I'm like, really? This is all
I have had beers with these gentlemen. I've had several beers with Bud over the years. Hell, we got drunk in California together. But I mean, it's
nice.
So I mean, good times can be had, is all I'm saying. And I know Sonnone and I want to sit down one day. He invited me to his house, and I didn't show up. Well, I didn't stiff him, but he invited me. We never set a date to sit around and drink scotch and whiskey and enjoy ourselves, and we haven't done it yet.
Open invitation.
So the point is, Trey, I don't think we would turn it down.
Understood. We'll make that happen. Who knows? Yeah. Could even be content. We'll find a business reason for it. And guys, thank you for sitting in for this wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it. Jeff, Bud, Brendan, you guys are the best as always, as are all of the subscribers, content enjoyers of Noles247, Warchant, the Nolecast. Guys, we're all one big happy Nole family, and we all can't watch practice together, so we might as well just all get together and
lament the tough times.
Absolutely. A little group therapy, a little catharsis. I love these three gentlemen. I appreciate their time. I appreciate your time, guys. The season is coming up. Subscribe to everybody's website to get everybody's perspective and all their news, and you'll be a better fan for it. But we appreciate the view. We appreciate the listen. We appreciate your time. I got nothing else to say, but for Bud Elliott, for Jeff Cameron, for Brendan Sonnone, I'm Trey Rowland. Keep chopping.